A big thank you goes out to Touchdown Digital, the sponsor of this week's video. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Glenn Samley and you're watching Sniper Photography. Today I want to talk to you about my experience using this. Now I don't often do gear reviews, as a matter of fact I don't do any, but I thought I'd just talk to you about my experience as being an owner. No one gave it to me, I paid for it. An owner of this, the 150 to 600 Sigma telephoto zoom lens. As you can see, it's a giant, it's a big one. I want to talk to you about my experience using it, and more importantly why I believe people are having trouble using it. Now first up, let's talk about the camera body. Look, people that know me know this channel, I do 90% of my personal photography is landscape photography. The other 10% is 5% wildlife with this lens and 5% macro photography. So this is why I brought a lens like this. I actually brought it about 18 months ago to take overseas. I went to Alaska and Canada and the US. Just performed brilliantly, and some of the images that I took with this combination were outstanding. Now this camera body is a Canon 7D Mark II. Now crop sensor, 1.6 crop. Now here's a fun fact. A lot of wildlife photographers and sports photographers still use this lens because of, use this camera, sorry, because of the crop factor, 1.6. And they match it to either a 500 or 600 f4. But with the crop factor, that's enormous reach. So this is a 150 to 600. The 150 times by 1.6, well, you do your maths, it's well over 200. And at 600, it reaches to about 910 millimeters. That is insane, insane focal length. Now, but there's caveats to using this type of lens, and this is the problem people are having. I'm reading in forums and websites and Facebook pages about this particular lens, the 150 to 600 contemporary, and that's exactly what this is that their images are soft because they're hand holding it. Now, if I'm shooting this unit, this body and lens, I've got it on a tripod or a monopod, so I don't need fast shutter speeds and I don't need to raise the ISO. That's the problem for a lot of people. Now over Easter, a couple of weeks ago here, the wife and I, we travelled down to Victoria and we went to Werribee Zoo. Now Werribee Zoo is just outside of Melbourne and it is a fantastic open range zoo, brilliant zoo. And I don't like zoos, but this particular zoo was just open range. The animals had free roam. It was superb. Wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. We walked around there for 8 hours. So I walked around for 8 hours with this monster, which weighs, this combination weighs 2.3 kilos. Now that's heavy after a few hours. And this is the problem people are having with this, is that they're shooting with low ISO and lower shutter speeds. Now, most of the comments I'm reading is, oh, my images look very soft. What do you think? Well, I know why they're soft, because you've been hand holding this camera and lens, and especially the lens, and you haven't raised your shutter speed. So even with your breathing at long focal lengths like this unit here, there's a good chance you'll get soft images. Now, I'm going to show you a few images that I took with this combination and this lens at Werribee Zoo during Easter. So, to point out why I love this lens is this one, it's not expensive. It's 4.5 to 6.3, so it's not a fast lens. It's $2,400 for the contemporary and about $2,900 for the sport. The sport's actually heavier and has more water resistance, but basically it's the same lens. Don't let them fool you for that extra $300 or $400. But this is just a fantastic combination to use, and it's a heavy lens. You've got to hold it like that. When you hold this lens, you've got to push your eye right into the viewfinder like that, into the eyepiece to make it stable. Now, a lot of people struggle with this. They're shaking and carrying on, and their images are soft. They're not blurry, they're soft. Now I'm going to show you a few images that I took with this combination, and I'll tell you how I did it. The first one is a gorilla, something to eat there. That was a silverback gorilla. That was taken at 500 millimeters at 6.3, and the shutter speed was 1,250. So it was fairly high. And my ISO was 1000. So yeah, the ISO was 1000, 6.3, shutter speed was about 1200 actually. But as you can see, it's pin sharp. There's no softness about this. There's no blurriness about this. That was handheld. Here's another one of the same fellow, a beautiful silverback, looking at his other mate. Just an incredible animal. If you have a look at this on a big screen, appreciate if you're watching this video on a big screen, you can see the detail coming out of this piece of glass. That is an insane lens. It's seriously, but you've got to know, guys, you've got to know how to use it if you own one and you're having trouble with it, or you're thinking about buying one of these. Listen up. Right, I'll show you another couple here. Here's one of another camel. Look at the detail. It's just insane. But there again, I know how to use this, right? I know how to get the best out of this combination. Basically, when I use it, I shoot an aperture priority. I set it at 6.3, f6.3, and I let the camera at aperture priority suit the shutter speed. If my shutter speed's not high enough, I raise the ISO. Now, I was shooting, there's a few photos here taken at well over 2600 ISO. Well, you know, huge ISOs, 3200, 6400. You know, we were right up there with the ISOs, and because I had to get the shutter speed because the light was changing like this. This is why I never shoot in manual doing this type of photography, because you haven't got time. These animals are moving around and carrying on. Now, he was actually eating that piece of, I don't know what it was, but he was eating it and he was moving. So with a shutter speed of over 2,500 a second, it just freezes everything, and there's no motion blur. Usually if I'm using this lens, I use it on a tripod or a monopod like I did overseas or here in Australia. But being the zoo, you just got no room, you haven't got time, people are tripping over the tripod legs, it's just nonsense. So handheld it was, and it's a heavy unit, but keep the ISO up, give you the fast enough shutter speed, and you won't have any soft or blurry images. I'll be posting this video to some of these pages where people are complaining about soft images because they don't know. Just no fault of their own. They just don't know that you've got to raise your ISO, get your shutter speed up, and hold the camera very steady. This is how you use this particular lens, because it's not a fast lens. It's not an f4 lens, right? So you've got to keep that in mind. So if you're thinking about buying one of these, go ahead, because it's fantastic. Last year, November, I was in Utah, and we went to Bryce's Canyon, and that is just incredible place. Utah, I could live there. And I shot some landscapes with this lens, and the detail I was picking off with all the buttes and the rocks and the colours was just outstanding. I can't speak any more highly of this lens for the price. As I said, I barely use it, but I'm glad I shelled out, you know, a couple of grand for it, because it's just so good. It's a lens, if you don't have it, it's a lens, and you get into a situation and it's a lens you wish you had, you know. But I'll show you a few more images here. You've seen the giraffes, you've seen the silverback gorillas. We'll see, there's one here. This one here, if you have a look closely, you'll see flies on the camel's sort of like head, nose area. Then you'll see a fly to your left near his ear. This is to show you how good the glass is in this lens. This is, I tell you, it's pretty darn good for the money. You just got to know how to use it. So there's that one there, and I'll give you another one. Here's a rhino. The rhino, just absolutely fantastic. I did use a program though, and I suggest if you buy this lens, there's a program called Topaz Ai Photo. Now I've got that, it's $300 Australian, 200 US. It's a one-off purchase, you put it into your computer. It just deletes all noise. It's an incredible program. So Topaz Ai Photo in a combination with this particular lens is a great combination. So you can shoot high ISOs and you might have noise in the background, but with Topaz Ai, and I'll put a link to Topaz Ai Photo in the bottom of the description here, it'll clean that image up. It is an absolute fantastic program. Seriously, I don't know why people don't use it. It is expensive, $300, I know, but once you've got it, put it into your, factor into the cost. If you buy this lens, keep another $300 aside and buy the Topaz Ai Photo. Otherwise, if you go out and buy a big lens like this, you're going to spend more money, and it's not necessarily really necessary to do. So there's a rhino photo. Here's one of a giraffe. Absolutely fantastic. And I'll put more images at the end of this video. But this combination is just superb. For the amount of time I use it, I just love using this lens. It is just a, you know, you walk around with it and people think, my God, what is that thing? And it's just fantastic. So if you're thinking about buying one, yeah, I tell you, take it from me. I'm happy I've got it because, as I said, I don't use it all that often, but when I do, the image is just fantastic. But, you know, I'll be letting people know, get your ISO up, build your shutter speed up if you're hand holding, and you won't have any problems. So let me know what you think. Are you thinking about buying a lens like this? Or have you got one and you're struggling with it? Please let me know. I mean, the answer is just in this video. Higher ISO, increase your shutter speed, and if you're struggling with noise, if you've got another couple of dollars to spend, an extra $300, download that Topaz Ai photo, and it just cleans up the images like they're like glass. It's incredible. So that's it. That's it with the Sigma 150 to 600, the Canon 7D Mark II. It's a massive unit. It's heavy, I know, but for the reach and for the price and the quality of the glass and the quality of the images, you can't beat it. So that's it for another episode of Sniper Photography. My name's Glenn Samuel. Thank you for watching. And as I always say, be nice to yourself, family and friends. But most of all, you keep shooting, keep smiling. Bye for now.